Hello, it's Gabby here for you. Before we jump onto this week's podcast, I just want to let you know about 2 ways that you can work with me. First of all, I do one-to-one coaching and I do that via Zoom, so we can jump on a Zoom call at a time to suit you. The second thing I've got for you is an online coaching course that's 12 modules that you can download straight away now. There will be a link somewhere around these podcast notes. And this is the course that I've designed, and it's got everything in it that I wish I'd have known when I finished cancer treatment and I was lost. So you can download that course now and you can start working towards making this your happiest and healthiest year ever. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you think. Take care. Bye-bye. Hello, it's Gabby here for you, and I hope this finds you well. Thank you for listening to my podcast. This week's episode of Confidence After Cancer is all about advocating for yourself. And the good news is that no one's coming to save you, but you don't need them to. So I'm going to talk about why self-advocacy is crucial, especially for cancer survivors who are returning to a normal life, whatever that is. So first of all, what is an advocate? You might have heard this term, I'm not sure if you have. But basically, it's somebody who supports a cause or a group, a champion, supporter, backer, defender. And quite often I find that women are very good at supporting and advocating for other people, but not for themselves. So let me tell you a little bit about my story. When I finished my cancer treatment, I thought everything would just fall back into place. I believed that my doctors, my employer, even my family would know exactly what I needed to get back to normal. But the reality was really different. I remember sitting in a meeting at work, feeling completely drained and overwhelmed, while everyone else expected me just to jump back into my old role without missing a beat. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. No one was going to magically understand what I was going through. No one was going to come to my rescue. I had to step up and say, this isn't working for me. And it was one of the most difficult conversations that I've ever had. But actually, it was one of the most empowering, because advocating for myself didn't just change how others treated me. It changed how I saw myself. And so I went from feeling like a victim of my circumstances, feeling a bit sorry for myself, to feeling like actually I was in control of my own recovery. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, how you can take charge and how you can advocate for what you truly need. And I do want to acknowledge, first of all, that you might feel some discomfort if you're listening to this by realizing that nobody else is going to save you. And I struggled with this for a little while as well. But actually, once I got my head around it, it actually, as I say, made me feel very empowered. I'm going to talk about, first of all, the reality check. Why nobody is coming to save you. Quite often, people expect someone else, whether it's doctors or their family or their employers, to lead their recovery or their well-being journey. They assume that they're the experts or the people that know me really well. You know, your family love you and they know you well. They should know what you want, but they don't always. And this is why I had to learn a lot about stepping up and becoming my own advocate and speaking up for myself and sharing what I actually needed. And that was quite challenging for a while, because sometimes I wasn't even sure myself what I needed. And I see this a lot in my coaching work that I do one-to-one with clients. It's very much a two-man sport. You know, I don't coach people and tell them exactly what to do. I might suggest things, but actually it's a two-man sport. When I work with a client, they have to do the work. If they want to get from where they are now to where they want to be, they're going to have to do some work. That's just how it is. I haven't got some magical formula that says, well, just take this pill or just do this checklist every day and you're going to get there. You have to do the work. You have to be involved. But the rewards, you know, are so well worth it. So thinking about different systems, whether it's medical or the workplace, they're not always going to prioritize the unique needs of cancer survivors. And I know this from my personal experience. My medical team were absolutely brilliant, my oncologists. But once I'd come to the end of the treatment and once the tumour had gone and then surgery was all finished, it was very much off you go. You're on your own now. With this sort of unwritten expectation that I was just going to be the person that I wasn't before, but I wasn't. And the same in the workplace. And I see this quite often as well. People may have some time out, or they might go part-time while they're going through the treatment. They go back to their old workplace. And the people around them might think, okay, well, you're back to how you were before. But it doesn't really work like that, does it? But I really want to suggest to you that advocating for yourself becomes a superpower. And what does that mean? It means speaking up for your needs, your values, and your boundaries. And if you need to speak up for them, obviously, first of all, you need to be really clear yourself of what those are. What are your needs? What are your values? And what boundaries are important for you? Okay. Because the benefits of advocating for yourself are reduced stress, increased confidence, and better support systems. So if I give you an example of this, so if I tell you about Sarah, who was one of my former coaching clients, Sarah was a breast cancer survivor who had always been a high achiever at work. After finishing treatment, she returned to her job, expecting to pick up where she left off, as many of us do. But she quickly realised that she was struggling with fatigue and brain fog, which made it impossible to meet her usual standards. And at first, Sarah tried to push through, afraid to speak up for fear of looking weak. But eventually she hit a breaking point. She decided she needed to advocate for herself. So she scheduled a meeting with her manager, and instead of apologising or downplaying her situation, she very clearly explained what she was experiencing. She proposed a flexible work schedule that allowed her to work remotely on certain days and adjust her hours based on her energy levels. Now, her manager was surprisingly supportive and even worked with HR to ensure Sarah had access to additional resources like counselling and periodic breaks during the day. And over time, Sarah found a rhythm that worked for her, and she actually started thriving in her role again. But what's amazing for her was that her courage didn't just help her. It sparked a larger conversation in her workplace about accommodating employees with long-term health challenges. So it wasn't just herself that benefited. Her self-advocacy ended up benefiting so many other people. And this story just shows how learning to advocate for yourself can lead to personal and systemic change. So it's like a ripple effect. Advocating for yourself inspires others to do the same. And there may be other people around you who are, for whatever reason, maybe they're nervous, maybe they lack confidence, but are just not speaking up for themselves. And you don't have to be bullish about this. You just have to be yourself, but with more confidence. So the practical steps really to advocate for yourselves is, first of all, I said you need to know what your needs are. Sometimes it's really helpful just to sit. I'm old school. I like a notebook, sit with paper and pen and think about, well, what do you need emotionally, physically and professionally? What is going to help you? And be really clear on what your non-negotiables are. Like, okay, is it flexible work schedule that you need? Is it rest time? Is it a support group? What is it that's important to you? What are the things that you really have to have? And when I talk to people about building up their confidence, it really is like a weight training, like building a muscle. And people sometimes think, oh, if I did that thing, then I'd be confident. But sometimes doing the thing is the thing that gives you confidence. Does that make sense? So overcoming the fear of speaking up is so common, and it's something I help a lot of my coaching clients with. But I'll give you a little tip. It's just practice with small tasks and build up to bigger ones. Okay, if this is something that feels uncomfortable for you and you think, I really want to improve my confidence, start with small things and build up. The more you do it, like building a muscle, the easier it will get. Okay. Setting boundaries is one of the most common things, again, that I work with coaching clients about. But it's essential if you're going to advocate for yourself. You have to have boundaries. You cannot afford, health-wise, to be a pushover. And you must learn how to say no without guilt and say yes without resentment. Okay. Another tip I would give you is to find allies. So to identify supportive people in your network, whether it's your family or at home or in your business, whatever it is, but find supportive people around you who can amplify your voice, who are going to make you feel comfortable, give you that confidence to be clear about asking for what you want. And sometimes it's joining groups or communities with similar experiences for encouragement. And I've talked about this before, about online groups and the power of finding your tribe, people who've got experience of going through what you're going through. You don't have to feel like you're on your own, especially now with the internet. It is so easy to connect with other people who are in a similar situation to yourself. Okay. The other thing I'd ask you to think about is staying resilient, because life is full of ups and downs. We know that it's not always going to be plain sailing, but again, like building that muscle, it's about building your resilience. So address setbacks. And what can you do if your advocacy is ignored or dismissed? So I'm going to give some strategies here for staying persistent and staying hopeful. Okay, first of all, I'd say just don't take it personally. Remind yourself that a negative response is quite often more about the other person's limitation than your worth or your needs. So try and reframe that rejection. It's not a rejection of you, but a lack of understanding or resources on their part. And seek to understand the why. Ask politely, very politely, ask for feedback or clarification. Can you help me understand why this request isn't possible right now? This approach keeps the conversation open and may uncover hidden barriers that you can address. Okay, you might want to think about adjusting your approach. If your initial ask was dismissed, try rephrasing it or breaking it down into smaller, more manageable steps. So, for example, instead of asking for a complete schedule overhaul, propose a trial period for a flexible work schedule. And that's something that I did when I asked for flexible hours and I wanted to reduce the number of hours that I was working. I thought of all the things that my manager might be concerned about, what would happen while I wasn't there. I had a plan for that. And I proposed a trial period and it worked really well because it sort of kept me on my toes as well, thinking this isn't something I can take for granted. And actually my manager then could see that I was making it work, I was making the effort, but I could reduce my hours and it did work well. So tailor your language to think about the other person's priorities. It's like I just said about my line manager. I know the first thing she would be thinking is, well, who's going to do that task when she's not in the business? So I kind of had that covered. Okay. I talked before about finding your allies. So if you can find somebody in your network or your workplace or your community who can advocate on your behalf or support your cause, it will give you that more confidence. And sometimes a message delivered by another person can carry more weight. So in my example of the company that I used to work for, if I hadn't have got the answer that I wanted from my line manager, my next plan was to approach one of her peers and have a very softly conversation with them about the challenges that I had and see if I could get another ally there. As it turned out, I didn't need it. Unfortunately, things don't always go to plan. So I would always recommend, if this is in the workplace, document everything. Keep a record of your requests, responses, and any related conversations. And so if advocacy is required in a formal setting, such as the workplace or the medical system, having documentation, for me, always strengthens your case and keeps me on track, keeps me focused on what I'm going to talk about. And if you need to, be prepared to escalate it. So if you're at work and you're not getting anywhere with your line manager, can you escalate to their manager? Can you escalate to HR? If your needs are consistently ignored, consider escalating to a higher authority. It could be HR, it could be a union rep if you're in a union, or a patient advocate. A lot of hospitals now we have PALS. It's like a patient, I can't remember what it stands for, PALS, but basically it's somebody you can go to if you've got a problem with your hospital. But when you are escalating, remember to remain calm and professional, presenting your case with clarity and evidence. You don't want to be dismissed as somebody who's like overly emotional or somebody who's making a big thing out of nothing, because you're not. You are asking for your needs. So another strategy for staying persistent and hopeful is to revisit your why. So remind yourself why you're advocating in the first place, whether it's to protect your health, support your recovery, or maintain your confidence. Reconnecting with your purpose, remembering the reason why, it can renew your determination. Okay. My next tip I'd give you is to celebrate small wins. So progress doesn't always happen overnight. Celebrate even minor successes, such as scheduling a follow-up meeting or finding an ally who supports your cause. This is all progress. It's all going in the right way. So celebrate those small wins. Give yourself a pat on the back. Okay, practice self-care. And I know I talk about this a lot, but it's because it's important. Advocating for yourself can be draining if this is a new thing that you're learning. So make time for activities that replenish your energy, whether it's journaling, meditation, spending time with loved ones, or just having more sleep, more rest. Rest is not a sign of giving up. It's a strategy for staying in the game. Replenish your energy so you can move forward. And another tip I'd give you is to focus on what you can control. Okay, so instead of dwelling on setbacks, which I must admit in the past I've had a tendency to do, shift your energy towards actions that you can take. So, for example, if your workplace won't accommodate your needs, think about other options like seeking freelance opportunities or a more flexible job. I'm not always going to say that that's the first thing you should think about, but sometimes if your needs and your wants are really not aligned with your company and that they are being very inflexible, it might be something you want to think about. Make an effort is another tip I'd give you to surround yourself with positivity. Okay, join support groups, listen to motivational podcasts. I do that all the time now. There's quite a few people on YouTube that I follow, or connect with people who uplift and inspire you, because hearing about other people's success stories can remind you that success pays off, that persistence pays off. Another tip is to learn and adapt. Each setback, treat that as a learning opportunity. Reflect on what worked, what didn't, and how you can adjust for next time. Don't just be hard on yourself and say, well, that didn't work. You're learning. Yeah, you either win or you learn. That's a saying, isn't it? So whatever experience you've been through, you either win what you wanted or you learn something. You might have learned what didn't work. You might learn something about yourself. You might learn something about the other person. Just reflect on that and think about how you adjust the next time you want to try. So think about advocacy as a skill that you're mastering over time rather than a one and done effort. You're not just going to learn a new thing overnight. So be kind to yourself. Again, there's a saying, if a child, when they're learning to walk, if the parents told them the first time they fell down, oh, this walking business isn't for you. Nobody'd ever learn to walk. What does a parent do when a child's learning to walk? They encourage them, they praise them, even little steps. Yeah, you well done. So try and do that with yourself. When you're learning a new skill, celebrate your successes, be kind to yourself, okay? Another tip I'd give you is to visualize the outcome. So just to imagine what your life will look like when your advocacy pays off. Does that look like better health? Does it look like more balance? Does it look like more increased confidence for you? And this vision can serve as a powerful motivator when things get tough, to get you through the tough times. If you're having a bit of a down day, remember why you're doing it. You're doing this for you. So remember, persistence is just like a muscle. The more you advocate for yourself, the stronger, the more confident you'll become. Every no gets you closer to a yes. Okay. I'm just trying to encourage you here to stay focused, resilient, and optimistic, even in the face of challenges that you may have. We all get challenges in life. It's just part of life. The key is really building your resilience and knowing that whatever happens, you've got it. You're good. Okay, so I just want to really recap what I've just said. Nobody's coming to save you, but that's a good thing because you're here to save yourself. I know you can. I can encourage you. Please reach out to me if I can help you with anything. Okay, and I'd encourage you to think about one area in your life where you might need to advocate for yourself and then take one action this week. Think about one action you could take to move yourself closer to where you want to be. If you need any help with any of this, you know where I am. I'm here for you. I do have coaching programs. I do one-to-one coaching with people. I do online courses. Just let me know what you need, okay? And I will be thinking about my next episode of the podcast. And I'm going to be sharing something you may have heard of, I'm not sure, EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. And it's a wonderful tool that I use with myself, and I use it with a lot of my clients actually for helping just have some magical results whenever you're faced with a challenge. I found EFT is one of the things that I can always rely on to help. Thank you so much for tuning into Confidence After Cancer. It means the world to me that you're listening. I'd remind you to, if you can, share this episode with other people who might benefit. If you leave me a like or a comment, it helps me to reach more people as well. So thank you for that. And as always, I'd urge you to stay safe and stay sane. Have a wonderful week, my darling. Thank you so much for listening. Take care. Bye-bye.